back live in the studio here at 96.3. The telephone number is 648-5510. Our guest this morning is Dr. James Fagin, who has significant background in history and terrorism and has come to Central Illinois to help Lincoln College Normal, not help, they write the program for the new degree program of criminal justice and law enforcement. Dr. Fagin, during the break we were discussing how extended the influence on terrorism is throughout the entire country. How do you think the general populace is adjusting to this crying need for extensive search before we get on airplanes?
The population actually is adjusting, some people think, too well, that they have given up these rights too easily without questioning, is this really necessary or not? We do need to ensure that the travel is safe. And there are certain things that seem to be logical, but there are other things that seem to be illogical, and no one is raising an alarm. I mean, women that wear very thin-soled fashion shoes, you couldn't get a bomb in those if you tried. I mean, and yet they're going through the motions of making you take these off and x-raying them. A lot of times some of the experts think that this is really for public show and confidence rather than for real effectiveness, that they're not really going to catch a bomb this way, but they don't want they want the public to think they're doing something. Now the other problem is that they find something like that we do airplane security, and everyone says, well, that's okay. Now we're extending it. Now we do subway security, we do train security, if we do ferry security, we basically take a good concept, we widened it, and now people are submitting to bus searches. So before you board a bus, certain cities are asking passengers to show ID and searching luggage of bus travelers. Now, this is kind of a ruse. They're not really looking for bombs. They're really looking for drugs. But if they're authorized to look for bombs under this new law, then why not take advantage of it and look for drugs too? Because that's also authorized. And so people traveling, for example, from Florida to New York by bus frequently find that the police are searching their luggage in the name of safety. But really what they're searching for are drugs, smuggling. And so the critics say, you know, we have given up these freedoms without asking enough questions.
Who determines that we're going to raise the awareness level?
The Department of Homeland Security. But the problem is they don't give us any detail. So they tell us that the threat is elevated, and even to law enforcement, if they say, well, what is the threat? Well, we can't tell you that. What part of the country is it? Well, we can't tell you that. Is it a bomb? What is it? We can't tell you that. Just be on alert. Be on alert for what?
Right.
You know, you could drive people crazy. You know, it's sort of like the mom who tells the kids, you know, you better watch your behavior. Watch it what? You know, it well covers a multitude of sins. But the problem is, all that costs money, and that money that we're spending, could it be better spent? Not that we shouldn't be alert, but we have a color code that, quite truthfully, I think that if we stopped 25 people and asked them what the color code alert of the day was, I don't think we'd get one answer that anyone would know it.
Doctor, I'd like to reference your latest book, and the thrust of that is regarding terrorism.
Yes.
Now, sir, is that a book that would be read by the general populace, or more so with the educators who have an interest in that field?
It serves two purposes. It was specifically written to be both a textbook and a general reader. It does not focus on the Middle East. It is not a political science thesis. It doesn't talk about the various terrorist groups and their names and their origin and their history that you might find in a textbook. It focuses on how terrorism is affecting everyday citizens and life and freedoms and law enforcement and courts in the United States. So the focus is on how terrorism affects us. What freedoms are we losing? What laws have we passed? What's been the response of law enforcement? How well have they responded? And how the average citizen who is not a terrorist, who doesn't even know anything about it, how they are caught up in this web of terrorism. For example, we've given the FBI a power which not a lot of people know about, but is a very frightening power to some people. The FBI can contact any library in the United States of America, including a college library, and they can ask for the names of all people who have checked out books on general topics. So they could contact the Lincoln College Library and they could say, give us a name of any student who has checked out a book about nuclear fusion or fission. But don't tell the student or anyone else that we've asked for this list of names. And the college is required to send that in, the name and address and contact of all the students. The FBI does not have to give any reason for this, any justification, and the college is never allowed to inform the student that their name has been sent in or even announce to the public that they've received such a request from the FBI.
What happens to this hypothetical student then?
We don't know. We don't know what they use the information for. We don't know how many times they've used it. We don't know because they have, it's secret. The library, if you go to the librarian and say, have you received such a request from the FBI, they are not allowed to tell you if they've received a request like that.
That's interesting. Now, it immediately comes to mind the term invasion of privacy.
Yes.
Well,
the books you read, now all of a sudden, and like I said, they don't have to ask for it by name. So they don't come and say, what books has Jim Fagin checked out? It's give us a list of all the students who have checked out this type of book.
Now, having said this, an invasion of privacy, if you want to call it that, it becomes necessary, unfortunately, in today's complex times, to use any and all measures to be alert to the possibilities of terrorism. I just think how lucky I am to have grown up in an age where we never locked the door when we were kids, you know. And now here we are in this terribly complex time when you're walking down the street in Chicago or maybe even Springfield or Bloomington, and you don't know that you've been walking by somebody who's has in mind bombing the Wrigley building.
Right.
There's just no way of telling.
Now, one of the problems now is that after 9/11, one of the big criticisms was that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies failed to, quote, connect the dots. They did not have proper intelligence to identify the pre-attack activities of these people, and people said you should have been able to do that. So the FBI says, if you want us to do this, you've got to give us more tools. We have to have more powers. We have to be able to do search without warrants. We have to be able to find out who's reading what books. We have to be able to look at people's bank accounts in secret without them knowing that we're examining their bank accounts. If you want us to catch these people before. It's real easy to catch them afterwards.
Yes.
That's the easy part. The hard part is to catch them before they do it. You know, the Texas, the Fort Hood shooting in Texas, they immediately caught the major after he did the shooting. He never left the scene.
Yeah.
But the question was, should they have been able to see that he was a problem and stop him before the shooting? And to do that, there has to be, as you said, an invasion of privacy, in that you have to be able to look at people's private life and sometimes make assumptions which may or may not be justified.
I'd like to return to Rab Road in Normal and talk about Lincoln College Normal and the criminal justice and law enforcement courses that we have started up there, and with particular reference to adults. Now let's say a younger person is, say, 25, 26, boy, would that be great, and completed their college and have their degree in criminal justice and law enforcement. What are the employment opportunities out there, generally speaking, Doctor?
One of the things that's happened in the criminal justice field is that the employers more and more are asking for educated employees. And so positions that maybe 20 years ago would have been filled by high school graduates. Now they're wanting to see college degrees. The TSA, Transportation Security Administration, is hiring tremendous numbers of people at airports. Probation and parole is one of the fastest growing industries in the United States. 3% of the California population is under some form of court supervision. I mean, it's one of the major employers in California. We can't afford to put people in prison, so we're putting them more and more on probation, parole, community release, community corrections, more positions there, and these are positions that require intelligent decision-making people skills. These are not positions that can be filled by high school diplomas. So a lot of probation, parole, community corrections positions. Obviously, private security is booming. Lots and lots of agencies now are seeing the need for private security. In the old days, they wanted a warm body. Nowadays, they're realizing that a warm body might be good for simple things, but now the attacks that a building might suffer may not be simple. And so they're wanting educated, degreed people. Also, it's better for promotion. And then, of course, your traditional law enforcement field. That's a constant. Law enforcement will never go out of business. No city will say, well, you know, we're going to have to close down our police department. There's a constant demand. In fact, with the economy, we're not able to hire the officers we need. Chicago is several hundred officers short. Once this economy recovers, there's going to be a tremendous expansion in law enforcement field as they play catch-up to get the officers they need.
Appreciate the fact you made a little extra trip down here to WLCN, high on the hill in Atlanta on Lazy Row. Dr. James Fagin came to Central Illinois to establish a criminal justice program on Lincoln College Normal campus. Been very successful, and we look for a lot of more success. We always like to close Viewpoint with a quotation or two from somewhere. I found this dug around here, and old Mr. Henry Van Dyke. You remember Hank Van Dyke, don't you, Judith?
He lived by my mother.
Yes, right. Time is too slow for those who wait, too swift for those who fear, too long for those who grieve, too short for those who rejoice, but for those who love, time is eternity. Thank you for Viewpoint.
Thank you.
Preserve the mission. These 3 words explain why we're building a new hospital in Lincoln, Illinois. Hello, this is Dolan Dalpaz, President